Calling Cross Volume 3 a bad comic is like calling Hitler a bad person. While the statement itself is true, there's no point in actually saying it because such a simple term doesn't truly describe just how disgusting and revolting they actually are. Cross Volume 3's sad excuse of a story follows Harold, the titular psychopath, as he makes his way across country with 4 lazy character archetypes in order to retrieve some stolen memorabilia from one of his earlier victims. Just in case you can't tell from my tone, I think that this story sucks. In my last video, I heavily criticized Volume 2 for its poor story and cheap over-reliance on shock value. But by comparison, Volume 3 makes it look like Shakespeare. Because as bad as Volume 2's story was, at the very least, there were a couple brief moments of good character situations in there. In Volume 3, there was nothing, and I mean nothing, other than shock value. From issue number 1 all the way to the end at issue number 7, there wasn't a single attempt made to say or do anything interesting. I've never seen such a reckless disregard for the basics of good storytelling. Conflict, tension, good pacing, and good writing all get thrown to the wayside so that David LaFamme and the devil that is his imagination can run wild to their heart's content. Needless to say, the characters fare no better. I get that as an audience we're supposed to hate Harold. He's the classic, no redeeming factors, purebred evil for no rhyme or reason character. Usually I'm okay with these types, but once I found out that they'd given him plot armor up the wazoo, hate went out the window. I despised Harold from start to finish. For me, it was like Leslie Howard and Pygmalion all over again. A thoroughly reprehensible being who only succeeds because they're the main character and the plot needs them to. The other characters in Cross Volume 3 don't even qualify to be called as such. I can't call them blocks of wood because that would be disrespectful to all of the Oscar-worthy performances in The Happening, and I can't call them thin because that would be disrespectful to every character in the Snyderverse. The only right term for them, in my opinion, would be victims, because the only purpose that they serve is to stand around and look pretty until David's ready to do them dirty in the worst ways possible to get his rocks off. We've got the black guy who's only there to be the first kill, the innocent blonde girl who doesn't talk much because the writer is too busy using her mouth for more non-consensual activities, the big leader guy who gets taken out way too easily in what is probably the most disturbing death in the whole volume, and the knockoff Sidney Prescott. Like I said earlier, these aren't characters, they're just victims. When it comes to characters and horror-related properties, I don't expect much. As long as you don't get my hopes up, just give me the bare minimum and I'll be satisfied. But this isn't even that. There was a complete lack of care shown for these characters. There was absolutely nothing to them. They showed zero personality or interesting qualities, and as a result, were not entertaining in the slightest. While the stories and characters of Cross thus far have only gotten progressively worse with each volume, one thing that has been consistently good, and is in my opinion the only good thing about Volume 3 Psychopath for sure, is the artwork. Raulo Caceres did a damn good job on this one. Everything from the character models to the backgrounds, to shading, the lighting, even the gruesome scenes that the book spends way too much time on, at the very least, all look great. This is usually the part where I detail the most disturbing scenes of the volume in order to give you an idea of just how bad it got. But I've been working on this short video for over a month now thanks to laziness and procrastination, so you'll have to excuse me. I don't feel like it, and I really want this to be over so that I can move on. Also, on the slimmest of chances that David LaFamme sees this video, I don't like the idea of him potentially getting all hot and bothered and starting to stroke his ego to my video. To be completely honest with you, I did start writing this section. As a matter of fact, I was almost finished writing it. But after reading it all back to myself, I just can't do it. Just think about all of the worst things that happened in Volume 1 and 2 and multiply it by 1,000. There's tons of rape, murder, torture, dismemberment, cannibalism, and even bestiality. Literally the first scene of the first issue is a depiction of bestiality. Needless to say, Volume 3 completely eclipsed the previous two in disturbing material. Cross Volume 3 is not only the most disturbing comic book I've ever read, it's also the worst. I know that there's going to be at least a few tinfoil hat wearers jumping to conclusions thinking that I'm soft, saying that it's supposed to be offensive, disturbing, and off-putting. So let me make this very clear. That's not the problem. It goes without saying that all of the things I just listed are terrible things, but them being a part of a story is okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I've seen many films and shows over the years that use what some would consider disturbing scenes to tell great stories. So the problem with Cross Volume 3 Psychopath isn't the fact that it has all of these violent scenes, it's the fact that it has absolutely nothing else going for it. Like I said before, it lacks the fundamentals of good storytelling. They all get left behind just so David can fit a few more cannibal and rape scenes in there, because the 10 he already wrote weren't enough to satisfy his craving. Cross Volume 3, in my opinion, is literally straight up torture porn. Its severe lack of effort to entertain any audience besides the most extreme edgelord is baffling to me. It's not happy, it's not sad, it's not funny, and it's not dramatic or emotional in any significant way, shape, or form. I hope that I'm making sense to you. When I say that Cross Volume 3 isn't any one of those things, I don't mean that it fails at those things. I mean that it doesn't make a single attempt to be anything at all. There's no nuance or fucks given for 7 issues straight. How do you expect me to care about characters that have nothing to them? Literally the worst things imaginable happen to these people, and the whole time I couldn't care less because they're so devoid of characterization. They don't even come across as possibly human or real. They were obviously just dumb, awaiting victims. It was just cannibalism, bestiality, grape, torture, murder, more grape, back to back to back to back to back, until it finally stops after David passes out in a puddle of his own ranch dressing. I thought that this was something that every professional writer knew, but I guess that some of them are a bit too busy writing crap like this. Having violence at the forefront without good writing or characters to back it up is not fun or entertaining to normal people. At first I was confused because I was so disgusted, but after a while it hit me. Shitty story and characters, combined with an over-reliance on extreme violence and zero effort put in to attract a significant general audience. This is legitimate, undeniable torture porn. It all makes sense now. It still sucks, but at least now I understand why. In conclusion, Cross Volume 3 Psychopath is a tasteless and downright disgusting piece of work. It has zero substance, the story sucks, and the characters suck. There isn't a single shred of entertainment to be found in this pompous piece of shit comic book, because not once does it try to be entertaining. The only thing it cares about is trying to shock and disturb you. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Having violence at the forefront without anything to back it up isn't entertaining. All it is a recipe to create the most revolting, shunned for good reason, pits of hell levels of media. Before anyone says anything, I'm well aware that there's an audience out there for books like this. Number 1, that doesn't change the fact that I think it sucks. And number 2, that's not a good thing. The last thing gorehounds need is more material. I get that morbid curiosity is a thing, but if you regularly, unironically seek out sick shit like this for pleasure, stuff with no nuance, no substance, just viciously graphic displays of the worst acts humans are capable of, if you love this, then I sincerely hope that you find Jesus and some good taste. Just watch the Saw franchise, Hostel Part 1, and Martyrs 2008 like a normal person. They're way better, I promise you. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd especially like to hear from you if you actually like this book. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload next. This has been Fraser, and I'll see you all next time. God bless.
Just moved in. The object on the left is a dummy. The object on the right is Alvin. You can tell them apart because